They froze, they fought, they lived. The cold didn't announce itself with drama. It crept in, quiet, wet, relentless. At 40 degrees Fahrenheit, a man can die just as surely as in a blizzard if he's tired, soaked and hunted. During World War II, thousands of soldiers faced that truth night after night. No campfires, no glowing embers, just darkness, damp earth, and the knowledge that smoke meant death. And yet they survived. This is how they stayed alive when warmth itself became the enemy. This is a war-tested survival story, one written in mud, discipline, and hard-earned knowledge. By the middle of the war, every experienced soldier knew one thing. Fire was comfort, fire was life, and fire was also a beacon begging the enemy to kill you. A single flame could be spotted from hundreds of yards away. Smoke hung low in cold air. Sparks carried on the wind. On the Eastern Front, German and Soviet units learned fast that fires brought artillery. In the forests of Europe, Allied patrols froze rather than light up the night. So fire disappeared. Survival had to be quiet, invisible, ruthless. The real enemy was moisture. At 40 degrees, dry cold is uncomfortable. Wet cold is lethal. WWII soldiers learned early that sweat was as dangerous as snow. March too hard, overdress, and your clothes soaked through. The moment you stopped moving, the chill set in like claws. Veterans taught recruits to strip layers before movement, even when it felt wrong. Shirts came off in freezing rain. Jackets were tied to packs. The goal was simple. Stay dry. Stay alive. Wool became king. Not because it was warm, but because it still worked when wet. Cotton killed. Once soaked, it stole heat fast. Soldiers cursed it, avoided it, and paid dearly when they couldn't. Layering like a weapon system. There was no fancy insulation, no modern synthetics, just smart layering and discipline. A base layer to pull sweat away, a middle layer for insulation, an outer layer to block wind. Soldiers adjusted constantly, on, off, loosened, tightened. The trick was never overheating. The best soldiers felt slightly cold while moving. That edge kept them dry. That dryness kept them alive through the night. At rest, every layer went back on. Hats mattered, scarves mattered. Even wrapping spare cloth around the neck trapped precious heat. Heat loss wasn't dramatic. It was slow, and that made it deadly. Ground cold killed faster than air. One of the oldest survival truths came roaring back during the war. The ground will steal your heat faster than the air ever will. Soldiers never slept directly on bare earth if they could help it. Pine branches, straw, spare clothing, packs, anything to create separation. In foxholes, they carved shelves to keep bodies off the damp bottom. In forests, they scraped away snow to reach dry ground, then rebuilt insulation on top. Even standing mattered. Men shifted weight, kept circulation moving. Locked knees meant cold feet, and cold feet meant frostbite that ended careers. When fire was forbidden, bodies became the furnace. Soldiers slept close, shoulder to shoulder, back to back. Sometimes 3 or 4 pressed together under one shelter half. Pride disappeared fast when hypothermia came knocking. This wasn't comfort, it was survival math. Shared body heat raised temperatures just enough to make it through the night. Wet men dried faster together than alone. Morale held better too. Misery shared is misery halved. In some units, rotating watch kept blood flowing. One man stood guard while another rested. Then they switched. Movement was warmth. Cold burned calories like firewood. World War II soldiers learned to eat before sleeping, not for pleasure, but for heat. Fat mattered. Carbs mattered. Warmth came from the inside long after digestion began. Even cold rations helped. A full stomach generated heat. Hunger invited weakness. Weakness invited cold. Drinking water mattered too. Dehydration thickened blood and slowed circulation. That meant colder fingers, colder toes, and faster heat loss. Alcohol, despite myths, was a trap. It made men feel warm while bleeding heat faster. Veteran soldiers avoided it in cold conditions, even when morale begged for it. Shelter without smoke. Shelter was quiet, low, ugly, effective. Shelter halves became windbreaks, ponchos became roofs, snowbanks became walls. Anything that blocked wind cut heat loss dramatically. Men oriented shelters away from prevailing wind, dug shallow pits, used terrain like fallen trees and embankments. Nothing fancy, just smart positioning. Mindset kept men breathing. Cold attacks the mind before it kills the body. Tree veterans spoke of discipline more than gear. Constant checks, fingers, toes, faces, talking to each other, staying alert. The moment a man stopped caring, stopped adjusting layers, stopped moving, the cold won. Experienced soldiers knew the signs: slurred speech, clumsiness, a strange calm. That was danger. They shook each other awake. Forced movement, shared rations. Survival was a team sport. Lessons written in frozen ground. 40 degrees doesn't sound deadly, but war stripped away safety nets. No fires, no comfort, just knowledge, discipline, and the will to endure. WWII soldiers survived by respecting moisture, mastering layers, insulating from the ground, sharing heat, fueling the body, and staying mentally sharp. These weren't tricks. They were rules, paid for in blood, and they still matter today. Because cold hasn't changed, and survival still favours the prepared. If this kind of hard-earned history matters to you, if you want the real lessons pulled from the dirt and frost of the past, make sure you subscribe to War-Tested Survival. Share this story with someone who values knowledge that lasts. Because the old lessons are still alive, and they're waiting to be remembered.